Hey guys, welcome back to another PuckPod by BD Sports. This is episode 56. Once again, it's just me and Christian. Brian's still, away at school. We're letting him rest and relax. Uh, I think this might be our last video before we take just a short Christmas vacay. I think all of us could kind of like use a little bit of a break, you know what I mean? Um, Christian, before we get into, our big topics, how was your week, man? You have a good week?
Uh, you know, I, I wouldn't go as far as say it was a good week. I'd say it was an eventful week. Not that eventful is sometimes good, but it's a good but eventful week. I didn't get to watch as much Leafs hockey as I would have liked, and evidently it was a pretty good week. Definitely a lot of work, as I'm sure the same for you. And then my dog chewed out my AirPod a couple days ago. That was just a funny event that happened to me. I fall asleep listening to a podcast usually, right? So just
Yeah.
had my left AirPod in, and my dog, he'll sleep with me on top of my bed. He's just gotten used to doing that now. So I guess at some point in the night it fell out of my ear. It was just there on the bed, and in the morning he's like, "That looks tasty." I didn't even notice until I went downstairs and I saw it on the floor, and I thought, "Oh, it's just he just left it there." No, I picked it up. This thing was chewed apart. Like there was pieces missing. It was a goner. So $100 later, we've got the replacement. But yeah, that was like the funny event of my week. How about you, Dave? Anything?
Man, that guy has a strong ass stomach. If this
Dude.
guy's chewing out, these AirPods are not like they're not like flimsy, right? Like I can't even tell you
Yeah.
how many times I've dropped my like the
Oh,
actual AirPods
yeah.
countless times. These things are durable. So for him
Yeah.
to, I guess with any like type of big force like that, I guess maybe they'll come apart. But you know what? I don't know. I was about to say hats off to him for breaking your AirPods, but I don't think that's
I gave him
exactly.
like a 5 minute
Did you
scolding.
give him
It's
a
just like,
start talking to? Little,
oh yeah, and like dude, he feels shame, man. Like I'm telling
yeah.
you, if I tell him like he's a bad boy really loud, yo, he puts his head down and he feels the
He
shame.
knows. He
He'll
knows he
walk
does.
away for a little bit. He'll be like, okay, I got
Like
you know.
I did something wrong.
Yeah,
Let him cool down, and then
yeah,
we'll come back together at a later time.
yes.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, other than that, me and my friend group did Secret Santa. Actually, the
Okay. Yeah.
past it was on Friday that we did the Secret Santa. That was a pretty good time. Honestly, other than that, a lot of work. Lots of work until the end of the month. And then me and you head to school, right? So the
We're gonna be
beginning
the
of
busy ones,
January.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we will
All
be.
three of us on the pod are gonna be studious fellows.
Yeah,
Very
100%.
studious. Yeah.
100%.
Looking forward to that though, yeah.
So then on that note, I guess we could just honestly hop into our first topic of the week, and it's the firing of Craig Berube from the St. Louis Blues. So I mean, dude, St. Louis has kind of been I know I've jabbed at the Blues, especially a lot. It was definitely a lot more last year, and it was at the expense of
Yeah.
Jordan Binnington.
Yeah.
I don't know. We really haven't talked about them since like one of our very first episodes. And I don't think like there was really good reason to talk about them. They weren't god awful to the point of us kind of like laughing at them and like bringing up like bad
Yeah.
statistics about them. And they also weren't the team from 2019 that like made that cup run, or even the teams from years before, like the years prior, where they
They
were like
had like deep runs. Yeah.
yeah,
They
they
were
were
a playoff
powerhouses.
team. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
There was just nothing to warrant talking about them, but there was always a little like bubble under the surface, especially I think I noticed it especially after they lost to the Avs in I think it was 2021.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that was the
Because
year
they
where
were a surprise team to like be in that series, right? Because they
yeah.
beat Dallas in game 7 to get to that one. And I
Mhm.
honestly thought they might like, okay, they might do it
They
again here.
they held their own too.
Yeah.
Like they were playing well like right up
I
until
like
the
that
end.
team.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like that was like the Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, like that was their breakout party,
Yeah.
right? That was
Yeah.
their year where they started turning up, and it's kind of been all downhill, I would say, since then. And it came at the expense of, the one guy who brought that team their only success in their 50 plus year history, right, of Craig Berube. A lot of fans were rightfully, I don't know. How do you feel about you know, they kind of got on the back of Jordan Kyrou, it seems. So we could
Yeah.
kind of bring that up. Oh, the player introductions, the first game, I believe that would have been on Thursday. Uh, Jordan Kyrou's in starting lineup, and he's booed mercilessly by his own fans and throughout the game. I didn't watch the game, but I've seen clips of it. There was like a power play, and every time this guy touched the puck, it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, boo, boo. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like
At a
this
home
guy
game,
had
that's
they were winning. They were
yeah,
winning at the
that's a key
time
too.
too. Like,
Yeah. That's unheard
like
of. Like, can you think of any other like scenario where
all
we've had that?
dude, all sports, I don't think I've ever seen, like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like even like soccer, where like European soccer, where
Yeah.
they will get on your back, like all of European football, your fans will get on your back for the slightest of infractions. I literally can't remember anything. Maybe there is instances, but like
I'm
that's
trying to think
something
like
that,
football, maybe like some quarterback that some team is just absolutely tired of. Like, but I couldn't name you a specific example. I couldn't.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was such a crazy situation and like
Yeah.
event to occur.
And what
Um,
culminated in that? Like, what did that lead to post game? Right?
yeah,
Because I feel like that's the even
that
bigger
yeah,
story from the booze, right?
I think that's the like that's the culmination of probably however many years. So
Yeah.
by all accounts, I don't know if you've seen anything, but I have seen reports in the past. Craig Berube and Jordan Kyrou supposedly w- butted heads quite
Yeah.
often. Um, but and also Craig Berube was somebody to call out the play
He
of
called them out multiple times
multiple
last year.
times, right?
Multiple
Yeah,
times, like him
especially last
and
year.
Thomas, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, but
And
like
it was
even just take the names out of it. Just say very very hard-nosed head coach that's really stringent, like just really strict head coach butts heads with very skilled player who sometimes doesn't play defense, is still very young on a new contract. Like you can just there's a scenario of that on almost every team in the
yeah,
league,
is that
right?
John Tortorella?
Yeah, like we just had Dean Evison, right? I'm sure there's
Yeah.
clips of Dean Evison going into Boldy or Kaprizov. Like
For
it's
sure.
nothing new, right? So
Yeah,
that's
like
not what
Lindy,
started this.
you think Lindy Ruff, especially after like last season with the
Oh
fire
my
Lindy chance,
God.
like him and Jack Hughes didn't
Yeah,
have a couple verbal sparring matches. Like you're crazy if you think it doesn't happen.
yeah.
It's crazy that we don't even hear of, like, I think for us to even kind of hear about it, maybe that's on the like on Berube's part, where he kind of made it more evident and more notable than other coaches would have. Maybe
I
that's,
guess it's just because he's a Stanley Cup winning coach, right? Like that's
yeah, well,
I
he
feel like that's
demands the
what it's part
best,
of.
right?
Yeah. We
And,
should
and
also
I,
mention too, like the
yeah,
quote that started this. Um,
yeah,
after Berube was fired, they asked Jordan Kyrou about his relationship with Craig Berube, and he basically said, "No comment. He's no longer my coach." In verbatim, you can't really glean too much from that. It's definitely hard to understand the tone and the context of the answer without audio or video, right? So,
yeah,
and I don't know if that exists or not, but yeah, that's part of the mystery here, and probably part of what led to allowing him to get booed, right? Without that
yeah,
context, you
mhm,
can infer the worst or the best, and the Blues fans chose to infer the
the
worst, right?
worst, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean that dude, that clip, if that was Thursday, he said that quote Thursday morning
Yeah,
skate.
less than
Thursday,
24 hours.
oh dude, it was like less than 12. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah,
yeah, dude,
yeah,
that by that night he was getting booed on like every single time. It was like John Tavares in like on
Yeah,
the
it's
island,
yeah.
like that type of
Yeah,
booing,
that type of booing. That's
like
loud boos, man.
crazy.
Those aren't like I feel like this doesn't happen as often, but there used to just be the token boo of the best player on the Habs or Senators when they play the Leafs. Like it would be like Habs coming to town, PK Subban touches the puck, boo.
Yeah,
Senators come to town, Daniel Alfredson touches the puck, boo. Right? That was just a thing. Chara,
yeah.
that was another one too.
But
That
that's like us. That's like that
yeah.
was like that would have been like
It's just like,
Leaf
oh, we're
fans.
supposed to do this. It's just that's just not what you do.
That
That's
would have been like Leaf fans though. If there was like a bad stretch, just booing Matt
yeah,
Sundin every single time this guy touched the puck.
yeah,
Like that would
yeah.
never have happened here. Like Matt's was
No,
beloved up until his retirement. Um, and I know Jordan Kyrou is a fan favorite. Like the guy is a skilled, young, talented player. Him and by proxy also Robert Thomas as well. So, but I'm also like I'm not gonna sit here and say like the fans don't have a right. They're frustrated.
yeah,
They expect a lot more out of this team, and also Craig Berube expected a lot more out of this team, and it looked like he just wasn't able to get the best out of this current crop of players, right?
yeah. It's interesting because if anything, I'd say he probably did get the best out of them. To be honest, like I don't know if there was more to get out of the team. Like I don't think the roster is that good. We can even talk about like Doug Armstrong's press conference, and he gave some very interesting quotes too. One specifically where he said, "You want to feel like you've left the team better off than when you've entered it," and he didn't feel like he's done that, which was crazy to say. But I think he's saying that specifically just like, hey, here's the roster I took over. Here's the roster today. It wasn't, nah, this has been a failure. They won a Stanley Cup. Obviously, his tenure's been a success. He's just talking about point A and point B. But that's
Mhm.
really interesting. So when it comes back to like Berube being fired, I don't know if I'm really putting too much of the blame on this season on him. Mind you, one of my predictions was that he'd be the first coach fired. He was not the first coach fired, but I did feel like this was coming for the Blues because they have a pretty mediocre roster. Like forward depth, defensive depth, goaltending, we've talked ad nauseum. To me, I'm not really seeing what there is to make that team a contender with the pieces on it right now. And so in that way, it's interesting that the Blues fans chose to side with Berube, and I guess maybe they're in agreement there that listen, it wasn't on him. He's the coach that got us the cup. It's on you guys, the players. If you're here to slander Berube, then we're not about it. It's basically,
So,
I guess, what the message was from Blues fans.
do we consider it slander? Because it seems by all accounts, and especially after the game when
Yeah,
Jordan Kyrou was, asked about his comments, he frankly he broke down, right? Like
yeah.
he's the type of
So it was
guy.
the toughest game of his life.
Yeah, he seems like the type of guy to wear his heart on his sleeve, and for his own fans to turn on him and kind of paint him out to be the bad guy in this whole situation, I think really wore down on him.
Yeah.
Was that quote justly, was he called out for that quote, like being like just like
Mhm.
I think it's no secret that they didn't really have a
Yeah.
great relationship, but like
Are you saying, Dave, that let's say I'm trying to think of who an option would be here. Let's say like Petrangelo was still on this team and he had that quote, or O'Reilly was still on this team and he had that quote. Are they getting booed the same way? Like, was this also a reflection of the fans maybe not being happy with Kyrou's play either? Like, had he been, let's say, the top performer on the team this season, and he says that quote, maybe he doesn't get those boos. Like, it is the quote, but it's also what the fans are seeing on the ice, maybe, right?
yeah,
It might be a combination there.
just a culmination of everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I could definitely see. I think um yeah, I think that doesn't help.
Just
Like if
frustration bubbling to the surface, like you said. Like basically, since that series loss, there's been a lot of stuff bubbling under the surface. Like the Tarasenko stuff was bubbling under the
Mhm.
surface. O'Reilly trade, like all this stuff. And this was one of those scenarios where the issue was just brought directly to the light when it came to like Berube and Kyrou's relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Real quick though, just when it comes to Berube, like, what do you think about him as a coach?
Well,
Like, he's,
a
I
track
feel like we
record
could
speaks
just
for
repeat.
itself.
Yes, it's a good track record, and it feels like the same conversation we had with like Dean Evison. It's like you
Yeah.
take that guy in your team if you need a coach
We had
this summer.
three guys in the over the past like what 3 weeks or
Yeah,
about a month that got fired,
yeah.
and Jay Woodcroft, Dean Evison, and Craig Berube now.
Berube's probably at the top of my list, right?
All
Like
between
if
the
I'm a
three,
team,
yeah,
yeah, I'm probably going Berube, Evison,
yeah.
Woodcroft. Like they're all
If
good
this
coaches. So I would
if
take all
this
three
is
of them,
a
but
if this is an NHL 24 career sim, it's a
yeah,
career. Craig Berube's got like the A's across the board
yeah,
in terms of like team fit, offense, defense. Like he's the guy that you obviously want to sign if he's there. And
yeah,
then you got like Evison and then probably Woodcroft. I think that's
yeah,
just like on terms of like tenure and also the amount of winning that they've done. And
yeah.
Craig
I think it depends on
Berube.
your team too, right? Like that's what it is as well. Because I think a team would benefit more from Woodcroft than Berube. Like could you see Berube on? I was gonna say the Devils, but I mean Lindy Ruff is a pretty hard nosed guy too. But I feel like Berube plays a different game. Like I could see Woodcroft on the Devils, not Berube. I don't know. It's just like a different
Hmm.
fit to me. I don't know. I don't know. But like I said, anyways, they're all good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do see what you mean though. Like out of the
yeah,
three, who do you want leading your
yeah,
team? You probably want Craig. I think Craig Berube's game, and this is exemplified by the fact that he won a cup and the way
yeah,
that he won a cup as well. It's just okay, maybe not in the regular season, like it's not quite as translatable, but 100% in the playoffs, not just winning the cup alone, but then, we mentioned it before with he won another series after that. Like, if maybe things
he took over the
fall,
last place team in the NHL and brought it to a cup in the
yeah,
same year. Right.
dude, if
Yeah.
if things fall differently, maybe they get through the Avs and they make the run again, and
Yeah.
that's their second cup in,
Yeah.
however many years, and only a couple of years, right? Uh, his style of play is definitely much more translatable to the playoffs than it is to the regular season. So
I agreed with that. Agreed with that.
if you're asking me who do you want behind the bench leading you for a playoff charge, it's 10 times out of 10
Yeah.
Craig Berube. I think maybe you get a little bit of breathing room with the other three guys, like the other two guys that we mentioned and
Yeah.
Berube, but I think lock on Craig Berube if I'm going into battle. He seems like a Rod Brindamore type,
Yes.
I
Yes.
want to run through a
As
wall
close
for
as you
this
can
guy.
get to him.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like
Rod,
he's a straight shooter,
he
right?
is.
Like he tells it how it is. We have the evidence of that from last season. And just speaking about like the team that we watch, sometimes you would like that more often,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Dean Evison feels like just Craig Berube light, right? Like
Yeah.
same type of guy, right? Like yeah, he does all the same things, but doesn't have the cup. So you're Craig Berube light. But yeah, like I think either of those guys. They're both like shelf life coaches, right? They're guys that you probably can't keep around forever. The only
5 years.
guy of their yeah, like that's probably a good shelf life there. The only guy who is the exception to that rule of this like mold is Brindamore. He's the only guy who's proven it's like he's the hard nosed guy. He demands everything, and for whatever damn reason, he doesn't have a shelf life. He's that good. He's the exception. But yeah, Berube, good coach. He'll land on his feet sometime soon. I don't know about this season, but probably as soon as this summer.
And then also, I think just quickly before we hop off, like, dude,
Yeah.
the game after Jordan
Yes, we
Kyrou's
should.
like booed mercilessly by his fans, he has
Yes.
a first star performance. I think he had a 3-point night, what goal, two
Goal and two
assists.
assists
Was
against
it a game
Dallas.
winning goal?
So not too sure about that one. I'd have to check it out.
Doesn't matter. Either way,
Yeah.
against Dallas, big part of like that's a
Divisional
division
rival.
rival. Yeah. Dude, that's what you want
And
from.
he got his cheers after that,
Yep,
right?
he did. I
Yeah.
believe he got a standing ovation as well.
Yeah.
That's
Good on
really
the
good to
Blues
see.
fans.
Yeah, 100%.
Like that's how you can just tell that's a market who cares about hockey, right?
100%.
Absolutely through and through. We got both sides of it. We got the booing and the cheering
And the cheering.
for
Yeah.
the same player in the span of 3 days.
You know what,
Yeah.
man? it's a great ending to the story for a
Yes.
story that
Yes.
potentially could have slid in a different path. It's
Yeah.
definitely a better result than potentially what could have happened. The next topic that we've got is David Perron getting a 6-game suspension, which honestly, when I saw okay, so I saw the hit on it was it Zub on
I believe it was Zuba. Yeah.
the Zub on Dylan Larkin?
Yeah.
No, the hit was
No,
on
no. So it was no, it was Matthew Joseph on
Matthew
Dylan
Joseph.
Larkin,
Uh,
and then Perron wrongly went to
yeah,
Zub and gave him the
yeah.
smack on the head.
He
Yeah.
took the wrong number and he
Yeah.
got a big number in terms of
Uh-huh.
like games suspended. Uh man, watching that in real time, I was like, I kind of feels like I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And I think I was like, okay, it's maybe a three, maybe four. Dude, for him to get almost double, I'm I'm actually happy that they are giving out less lenient punishments, even to a guy who's I think David Perron's been in the league for about, former St. Louis Blue, been in the league for about 15 years now, and he's had a pretty
Yeah.
clean track record. I've never
Those
really,
suspensions.
yeah, I don't even think I wouldn't even consider him to be like a dirty type of player. Maybe he's a bit of a grinder type of guy, but I wouldn't say that he's a dirty player per se.
Yeah.
And that goes to his point of having a pretty clean track record in the NHL. So, you know what? For them to kind of throw the book at him, I think is kind of good progress. It's saying like, hey, we have to take a serious step here in terms of protecting the guys on the ice. That was an attack on Artem Zub. Like whether Red Wings fans see it like that or not, that was a blatant, attack on Artem Zub on it, like for somebody who was basically a bystander in this situation.
Yeah.
Um, dude, I don't know. Like,
It's tough to find like an argument against the suspension. I know that Alan Walsh's argument was on Twitter, basically saying, "Hey, how is the Austin Matthews cross check to the head on Rasmus Dahlin 2 years ago a 1 game suspension, and this is 6 games?" I do think sometimes I get on the NHL for them not setting precedences and following them. On the flip side, though, I think like a precedence can change for the better, right? Where it's like, listen, 2 years ago, we gave him 1 game. Maybe we should have gave him more, and we're gonna start giving them more in the future. Here's 6 games for Perron, and if this happens again, it'll be reflected once more in how many games a player is suspended. At least that's my
mhm,
hope. Because if we go
yeah.
back to another player doing this and they get suspended 1 or 2 games, then yes, there's a dumb problem like usual. But I'm gonna be optimistic here.
I think the biggest problem is that they'll give David Perron a 6-game suspension,
Yeah,
and then the next guy to do it is going to be a 5K fine. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? It's like, okay, so how did you come up with that decision? Basically, like,
Yes.
what did what did player B do that was so different to David Perron or even Austin Matthews, who got suspended
Yeah.
as well, right? Like all three of them are relative, they could be relatively the same type of play. I think
Yeah.
I think the only thing that fans or a lot of people in the sport have been calling for is, some like you mentioned a precedent, just some
Yeah.
consistency. I think that's all we
Yes.
want to see. Dude, consistency from everything. Like, dude, you could talk about consistency in officiating. You could talk about consistency, uh, up and down in the coverage of the game. Consistency.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
only thing that fans want to see. If the Department of Player Safety can finally start getting their calls on consistency, that's problem one out of, the hundreds of problems that the NHL has, but it's a big problem that they would eventually be able to solve. And it's a step in the right direction, right? Like that is,
Yeah.
you want to protect your players. It doesn't even have to be a star player. Artem Zub could have been the seventh D called in for that game, and I know he's not. I know he's playing in the top four, but that could have been I don't know, Max Lajoie on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and
Yeah.
we would be sitting here saying the same thing. Like, why that doesn't have to be your star player making $13 million. That could be the guy making 800K, and you don't want to see a guy's life get like hits like that could shorten people's lives.
Cross checks to the head are generally not good for your head.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not
Right.
great.
This is news. This is news. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I agree
100%.
wholeheartedly. There was a couple hits this week that garnered at least hearings and I think some other suspensions. I don't know. Suspension talk is a hard one for me because most of the time it can be cut and dry. I think when you really get the controversy and the debates is in the playoff suspensions, right? Those are the ones that usually drive fans up the wall. Um, but yeah, suspension talk. I can't say it's one of my favorites. It's obviously usually involves injuries and stuff, so it's not the most thrilling stuff to talk about. But this was a big one, so definitely worth covering.
I wouldn't say like I wouldn't sit here and say I'd make a better choice to
Yeah,
make these calls, right? It's the same thing when we talk about officiating. It's like, yeah, we could criticize the officiating, but what are we gonna do realistically sitting here talking about it? Like,
you
would
can
we
only do it
go
so
in?
many times.
Yeah, would we
You,
go in and do a better job? Probably
yeah,
not. Like those guys are the best in the world. And the Department of Player Safety, I'd like to think that the people that are hired to review this type of stuff are the best available people in that position. Whether you think so or not, the NHL certainly believes so because they made those hires, right?
yeah,
Um, but again, like I don't pity their job. That's a tough call to make.
absolutely not. Yeah,
Uh, but do we think we could sit here and say that the whole system kind of needs a bit of a revamp and maybe they should start giving harsher like you give harsher punishments to players, it probably inclines them to not be as reactionary in the future. You know what I mean? And maybe it gives them like
yeah.
David Perron now when he comes back after his 6 games, because I think it's only been a couple of games since he
I think
might
it's
only be
been
halfway through.
yeah, it's been 3 or 4, I think.
When David Perron comes back and he has to stick up for his teammate, which is very, very commendable to do. He just witnessed like he just saw his captain kind of get like flatlined in front of the net.
And he's
Is
like he
he
looked like he was not out cold, but like he was not moving. Like it was
He was, yeah, it's a
so
scary
it's a
hit. That was a
scary
scary
scene.
play. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Is David Perron as reactionary? Maybe does he do something else that's probably not as threatening? Also, maybe finding the right guy who committed the original injustice. You know what I mean? Like not
yeah,
picking out like another bystander. It's so tough to say in the heat of the moment because we're sitting here talking about it, 2 weeks after the fact or a week after the fact, and David Perron had to make a split-second decision like that. Like it's either I'm going in and I'm sticking up for my captain, or I'm sitting here looking like a chicken shit while my captain's on the like out cold on the ice, right?
yeah.
It's tough. It really is.
Tough one, man. Tough one.
Yeah.
Before we go into our caps and leaf stuff, there is I just came across another piece of news that we don't have to get into here, especially just because there's still like developing details. Going back to like Minnesota and maybe even involving Dean Evison. There's like the Bill Guerin stuff is starting to be reported on. There's some investigations going on. One of their GMs, or sorry, their assistant GM, I believe it's Chris O'Hearn, has left the organization, and apparently that's a big surprise to like not only like executives around the league, but even to, like to the players. Like he was apparently someone involved. in the day-to-day operations, but actually meeting with players and stuff. So it came as a surprise. And we've since learned from like Friedman and Mike Russo, who reports on the Wilds, that there's investigations going on. It's not really much to comment on until stuff is resolved there. Just wanted to mention that because I did remember that was this week as well.
Um, if I'm not mistaken, I did see that piece of news. I believe is his name Eddie O'Hearn or Chris O'Hearn?
I think it's
Chris
Chris O'Hearn.
Chris O'Hearn.
Yeah.
I believe his they mutually terminated his contract. And that was to do with I want to say it was like on ice type of behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess we could say, but
Yeah.
the Bill Guerin um investigation, it has to do with something off ice, and maybe we'll never see. It's one of those things like we may never see the whole story.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
okay, so Chris O'Hearn is officially like he's not in with that job anymore. We may never know the reasons why he was let go, and I don't think we deserve to know unless there was maybe a criminal investigation involved, which it doesn't sound like there is. We may not ever deserve to know what happened there, and then depending on the outcome of what they find, of what they're investigating Bill Guerin for, whether he's found guilty on some levels of whatever they are accusing him of doing. Maybe even then we don't even know to the fullest extent of that story either. But
Yeah.
what I could say is we hope that we hope Chris O'Hearn, who I've heard was a sought after individual. He is the Brandon Pridham, I guess we could say, to the Minnesota Wild. Like he is a guy who advocated for buying out the Zach Parise and Ryan Suter contracts. So he is somebody good with numbers, and somebody who knows how to make the cap work and how to weaponize the cap against other teams. So I would imagine in the near future, if he was looking for a job, he will probably be
Decent
taken into,
resume.
yeah, he definitely will be taken into serious consideration for another job. And with Bill Guerin, regardless of the situation, we wish him the best, regardless, we hope everything resolves itself in due time. Um, Other than that, I think we can honestly start moving
I think
forward.
that's that.
Um, Maybe we take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll do a little caps segment and then some Leaf talk. All right, guys, we are back from our short little break. Uh, I guess we'll just hop right into it, dude. The Washington Capitals look to not be are looking to not be the Washington Capitals, basically.
No
Uh,
more. The Northern Virginia Capitals.
yeah,
I'm
it
ready.
doesn't quite roll
No,
off the tongue.
and
They're
it should
not
no,
even
not even the Northern Virginia Capitals. The Northern
they,
Virginia not Capitals.
yeah, they can't be the Capitals anymore. They're not in the capital. Maybe they'll be like I was about to dude, I was literally gonna make a what's that song? Take Me Home Country Roads joke because they say West
Oh,
Virginia and all I
yeah.
heard was
Can't even
Virginia.
do that.
It's not even West
Damn
Virginia, dude.
it.
That's a different state
Damn.
altogether.
Yo, rebrand to Screaming Eagles. The Northern I don't know if Northern Virginia Screaming Eagles sounds like an NHL team to me. Sounds more like a ECHL team, but
That is, if you would have told me that's an ECHL team, I would have been like, yeah, you're right.
yeah.
They play the
So yeah,
Orlando Solar Bears every other week.
yes, yeah. It's a great team, a great name, bro. But yeah,
Shut up.
this is hilarious in the sense that it came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
absolutely nowhere. Like we talk to a Caps fan every week. It's not like Brian said, "Hey, you guys should like watch out for this." Ted's been talking this, and that. No, like nobody knew about any of this until I think it was December 12th. So whatever day that was, there, I'm losing track of time. Five
Close to
days
a
ago,
week. Yeah.
yeah, it was like midweek. I want to say it was like Tuesday. So just randomly, what I saw first was a Woj tweet, Woj Narowski, as the his report was, a deal is close for the Wizards and Capitals to move the franchises out of downtown DC into Northern Virginia. Um, and that just kind of starts a little bit of a firestorm online. Like, what are you talking about? What the hell's going on? We saw stuff from the Washington D.C. mayor, um, Mayor Bowser, also another sick name. Like lots of sick names involved here. And they were
This
saying,
is this Deputy Princess Peach.
bro, you're probably right, man. I don't know at this point. I don't know why. There's lots of Bowsers in like powerful positions. You know that even like the Nintendo CEO's name is Bowser. I'm not
Is
even
that
kidding.
is that not was there not a story like is that not like the person that they named it like that they named Bowser after? Is
I
if
have.
I'm not mistaken?
Now we're getting too deep into the
Yeah,
Nintendo lore.
too much
Now I'm
lore right
lost.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, too
and
much
it was back
lore.
to Mayor Bowser.
Yeah.
Um, they basically said, "Listen, we're gonna throw $500 million at you to stay here. Stay. We look at all this money." And Ted Leonsis, the owner of like Monumental Sports and the two franchises, said, "No, we're taking our talents to Northern Virginia, and we're gonna build on this." I forget what the plot of land is called, but anyways,
It's
it's
beautiful
happening.
concept. It's a beautiful
Yeah,
concept, I have to say.
concepts are always beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
It's
the
30
the
minutes
bit
away from DC. That's another thing I wanted to mention as well. So
that
that's not
is
like terrible, but
that is like the the
what if they
situation.
move the Leafs to Vaughan? What if they moved the Leafs to Vaughan? Like that would
It's
be a
that's
problem for
that's
downtown,
probably even
right? Like,
farther, I'll be honest with you. I
oh,
think we're a
100%.
bit farther.
100%.
Dude,
Yeah.
after especially after the conversation we had before we started recording, talking about the
Yeah. Yeah.
damn
The
traffic,
traffic.
the damn
Oh my
traffic in the
Lord.
city. A 30-minute drive in like here could take you 10
Yeah.
streets,
Yeah. Yeah. So
right?
that 30 minutes seems like not much, but still it could definitely mean a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. This is weird, bro, Dave. This is a
especially if
weird
there's
one, man.
not especially if there's not a lot of public transit taking people
Yeah.
from like I know the downtown, if I'm not mistaken, the downtown downtown DC, Washington DC,
Yeah.
they have a very good commute system. Everything seems to be it caters to the Capital One Arena, which makes a very good sports franchise like most of the time. I'm not gonna throw MLSC into here, but they kind of lucked into a very good situation in Toronto, building right beside Union Station, which is probably maybe set aside one or two other stations in Toronto, like the most uh trafficked station, like the station with the
It
most
probably is.
traffic.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
argue if it's not that, it's the station at Yonge Dundas Square. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
either or,
That's true.
basically, right?
Yeah.
But that's to say, like they get a lot of foot traffic, and I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe the um public transportation basically gets you right to the stadium in wherever you are in DC. So now to move that 30 minutes away, if this is going to go through, Ted, can you provide that same type of, you know, experience to those fans in Northern Virginia who are maybe looking to be fans of your team? Can you also provide that same type of transport to your pre-existing fans, the fans that are most likely in the Washington and Greater Washington area? Um, this whole dispute kind of from if I'm not mistaken, it's literally over $100 million in taxpayer money.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Washington mayor originally, or like the Washington city government was like, we are not willing to spend. Ted's asking for
600 million.
yeah, for 600 mil. I think they weren't even close to five. Like 500 seems to be like
This
they're
is the last.
relenting. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the
It's like
last.
fine, fine. This is, yeah.
Yeah, so it
This is all
seems
we
to be
got.
less than that, right? But I think five, like, are you really gonna split hairs over an extra $100 million,
It's a
Mr.
funny sentence to
Billionaire.
say, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
crazy. I couldn't even fathom
This is
like,
100 million, man.
yeah.
Like, yo,
Don't you
buddy. But
have a
but
hundred?
honestly,
Say,
in
don't
this
you have a
guy,
hundred
yes.
mil on like on hand right now, Ted?
Yeah, you
Like,
don't have an $100 million bill in your wallet, Ted. Come on.
come on. What
Yeah,
type of billionaire are you?
come on, man. Come
Not
on.
a good
Well,
one.
obviously not. Obviously not.
Yeah.
I'll be very curious to get Brian's take on this because we're less the experts on this one. I'm pretty sure Brian's been to some games in Washington, so you can like comment on the arena, the demographic, just the surrounding area and stuff. Because I feel like that's probably like when it comes to like the fans and attracting fans in the new area that they're gonna build this. Like that's important. Like how many people live in the surrounding area compared to Metro DC? Like
I could guarantee
that's
a lot less,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah. And I think
DC,
DC already is not one of like the like it's big, but it's not
it's
huge,
not a,
huge.
yeah, it's not a conventionally large market,
Yeah,
even though that is where the capital of
yeah.
the United States is, right? Like it's significant in the context of the United States, but I don't think Washington, DC itself is a significant um market population in terms
Like
of,
I would guess it's in the NHL population wise as a city. Like I would guess it's like middle, like maybe like
oh, it's
but
10,
like
11,
yeah, yeah, I'd even
10
guess
to
like
15.
15 to 20, man. Like I don't know
Oh.
if it's yeah, I don't off the top of my head, guess, but like it's
Well,
not a
because
huge, huge
you
one.
also have to consider, like, put that into context with some of the teams that are probably in front of them, like Toronto, Chicago, LA,
New York,
New
Philly.
York, New York, and Philly. Yeah,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
those tri-state area teams except for Columbus, I
Detroit,
think.
Boston.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
Columbus
are,
is the only one.
yeah, those are really big markets. All West, even like Seattle and Vegas, probably not so much, but definitely
Vancouver,
Seattle.
Montreal.
Yeah,
We've named already 10, I think.
yeah,
So
I think
yeah.
we have.
And
So,
those are the ones that we were like guarantee yes bigger than DC, and there's probably other ones that we're forgetting. Dallas has to, yeah,
oh
like
yeah, oh yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I think we maybe double back on this topic with Brian, see what he thinks.
yeah.
There
I
was another
think,
cap thing we wanted to bring up.
yeah, I think the only loser out of this situation are DC fans, right? Like
Yeah,
those,
100%.
they're probably gonna not lose a team. I think if you're a
It's
fan,
just going to be a nuisance to go in person. You're probably
yeah,
still going to watch
100%.
them, but yeah, it's just if the
That's,
Leafs up and left half an hour farther from us, Dave, like we'd not be happy about that.
well, that's equivalent of, yeah, putting the stadium in, I don't know, Markham. What type of
Yeah.
transport is it to
For
like,
us, we'd like it, but for other like downtown Toronto fans, would be like, "Oh, what the hell?"
yeah, you got to come up the DVP
Yeah,
a lot more, basically, right? Nobody wants to
yeah.
do that. I'll tell you that right
No,
now.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's another situation that it kind of reminds me of is like the Tampa Bay Rays. Like they don't even play in Tampa Bay. Like, are you gonna be able to call that team the Washington Capitals,
Clearwater.
the
Yeah,
Washington Wizards still? Like, no, like I don't, they're
I'll be
not in
very curious
Washington.
to see what they do there, man. Like
You might
really
have to
curious,
rebrand.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and especially like on the Caps front, it was just too like historic franchise that like the Jordans played for them and whatever. But um, like that's a significant thing to rebrand a like a historic team with history to like that's
They
not
I will get into this topic like now, but they
yeah
potentially have one of the all-time
yeah
greatest goal scorers of NHL history, over
yeah
120, like probably close to 120 years of history, playing on their team still. And by the time um that this deal and this arena looks to be set, I think
he'd probably
will
be gone
be,
by that point.
yeah, just like
I want to say it was
he
like 5 years out.
let's say he plays another 3 years. That's
Yeah,
like the second year post Alex Ovechkin, and then also post like Nick Backstrom and post John Carlson, and like
it's gonna be
lining
like a
up the,
totally new franchise, man.
basically, yeah,
It's
it
gonna
could
be
honestly,
defunct.
it could
Yeah,
honestly be like basically a new franchise, depending on how you want to look at it. But
yeah,
that is obviously going to be a situation 5 years from now. We'll definitely get a lot more information. I'm gonna assume within the next few years. Um, I guess we could live in the now and talk about, the guy we were just talking about, Alex Ovechkin, 5 goals in, is it 30 games so far?
27 games, 5 goals in
27 games.
27 games. I believe it's a 11 or 12 game goalless drought, 12 game goalless drought. Whatever it is, it's the longest of his career. Um, yeah, like what is our concern level here when it comes to Ovechkin's goal total on the season? And obviously in his career, because I think it's 60 something goals he's back right now. I'll double
65.
check it. Duh. He's at, it's not the right number there. There's 827. He's got to get to 894. So yeah, it's 60 something there. Oh yeah, it's just under 60, right? So he needs at
Mhm.
least 22-ish goals if you're going to do that 3 years in a row. But even that, like I think we were expecting next year, like that's what we were looking at here. That like early next year is when we were expecting him to break the record based off of his past goal scoring
Yeah,
pace.
100%.
Yeah,
So, but okay, so you asked about the level of concern. And if I'm a Washington Capitals fan, I probably have some concerns because this is out of the ordinary for Alex Ovechkin. And you also have to take into consideration his age, right? Age is the one constant for everybody. Time keeps ticking on all the time. You never get younger, you always get older. And time will always break your body down quicker than a lot of other things. But that being said, as a non-Caps fan, I think if I'm going to bank on anybody to have a ridiculous stretch of
yeah.
games of goals, like a goal scoring rate, like to get to 30 right now, he needs 25 in 50 games. That roughly,
That's
give or
you
take,
see when you put it like that,
that's
that's
a
when you're like, okay, I can see that.
point.
That's
You're
where you
saying
can see
you're
it.
gonna tell me Alex Ovechkin can't do a .5 goal per game pace. If he has one game where he gets a hat trick,
Yeah.
that's like,
We're
then
already
he's up
talking.
to
Let's say he gets a hat
8.
trick next game, right?
Yeah,
8 and 28. Now you're like, oh, that's not terrible. Like he's almost on pace for a 30 goal season. Like, right? It totally changes the complexion. You're right about
100%.
that.
A
Yeah.
couple, a
And
couple
it's also worth
multi
knowing too, like he's has a 5% shooting percentage right now. So,
that
and
is
I just wanted to see too.
uncharacteristically low too, right?
Yeah. So I'm looking at um just how many like the shot totals, the league leaders. He isn't as high as he usually is. Like he's 25th in the league. He's usually top 10. He's almost like a lock for top 5 most years. But I'm looking at shooting percentages, and there's only one guy ahead of him that has a lower shooting percentage. It's Matthew Tkachuk with also 5 goals in 30 games at 4.6. Other than that, he's got the lowest shooting percentage in the top 25 at 5%. So definitely, like, there's got to be some regression built in here. Maybe he's not getting the same chances, but just based off of his shooting talents, you're going to expect the puck to go in more, even if it's from distance.
Well, so I think we can kind of surmise that the one thing that Caps fans were kind of banking on, bouncing back and being a constant is their power play. And unfortunately, right now, Spencer Carberry and whoever's, I honestly, I don't, is it Kevin? I think we brought this up. Is it not Kevin, not Kevin Love, Mitch Love that
It might, yeah, I think it's Mitch Love. Yeah, yo, could you imagine Kevin Love running the power play,
Kevin
picking rolls and yeah, no, but
just
yeah,
playing hard nosed
Dave, this is the
2015
second time you've
basketball.
gotten a name wrong using Kevin. I just want to mention
Uh,
that.
I don't know what it is, dude.
Who's the next victim?
Who's
Who's the next?
I we'll
That's
we'll
right.
find out. It definitely will be another Kevin. I'll tell you that.
Time will tell, man.
Only time will tell. If I think we said this before, dude. If I'm Spencer Carberry, if I'm Mitch
Yeah,
Love, if I'm trainer number three in that room, I'm like, dude,
trainer number 3.
yeah, unnamed trainer, dude. Somebody has to be like, dude, we got to get this power play, which I still believe is like, if it's not dead last, it's like second last. And this is crazy to consider, considering that their biggest rivals in the Pittsburgh Penguins just had what was it, 0 for 39 or 40 streak, and the
Yeah.
Caps are still under them in terms
Caps
of
are third worst, 10%. Penguins are 12.9%, sixth worst. So yeah,
yeah,
there's a difference though there. That's crazy. That's bad, Caps fans. We
that
don't have to have the
2%.
same. We had this same conversation like we said last week, but yeah,
Yeah,
like when it comes to Ovi, this is his bread and butter.
he needs that.
So
Like that.
yeah,
Unfortunately, at this point in his career, I think it would be a bit not unjustified, but like it'd be kind of a stretch to ask for Alex Ovechkin to be the main play driving force 5-on-5.
yeah,
What he needs to be is your absolute nuclear weapon on your power play. Anytime you take a penalty against the Washington Capitals, you should be like, okay, well, I can kind of say like we're going to be going down a goal here, or you know what I mean? Like we're going to get scored on this power play. How do we respond 30 seconds from now, basically after that goal
yeah.
goes in, and try to come back from it? Like that's what your power play has to be with Alex Ovechkin.
So I just thought about this for now, and this is we can conclude on like Ovechkin this season, but going forward, like if you're writing the Caps grocery list for the trade deadline and for the summer, is your number one item like a playmaker to play with Alex Ovechkin to rekindle something there, right? Like I
It
feel like
has
that
to be
might be
clearly.
yeah, right. I'm
Well,
trying to think
they
of who that guy would be. Like, who do you target? Who's a free agent coming up? That's just a elite playmaker. The guy that comes to mind
Elias
is
Lindholm.
Nylander, and but see, Elias Lindholm is more of a finisher to me. Like he's not a pass first guy. He's a
I
defense first guy. To a 200-foot forward, he can score. He's a 40 goal scorer. He he's definitely awesome, but like I don't know if he's like the guy that can just feed Ovechkin for days. That I'm trying
Yeah.
to think of that guy,
Okay.
and I
Uh
other than Nylander, I can't
yeah,
think of a name.
dude, if it would be crazy to see, another Nylander in
Yeah,
Caps
yeah,
colors, right? And also feeding Alex Ovechkin again,
yeah.
basically,
That'd
right?
be
Like
funny.
that would be I mean, I don't know if it'd be as like funny to me and you if
No, I think it'd
that's the
be
case.
crying and just
Yeah,
smashing our screen and
wouldn't be able to
locking Brian away, and
I
I
wouldn't
don't
be able
know.
to see my screen through all the tears I'd be crying if William Nylander
Yeah,
up and left us for the
I could
Caps.
never look
But
Brian in the face again if that happened. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm in no way insinuating that's happening, but I'm just thinking from the Caps side of things, like that's got to be top of your grocery list. Like, get a
yeah,
playmaker for
100%.
Ovi because Kuznetsov isn't
Especially,
it anymore, right?
yeah, dude, especially considering, the one guy that was by his side for 15 plus
Yeah.
years and Nick Backstrom just had to basically call it a career a couple months ago. And then also the next big Russian thing to come out of that Caps organization in Evgeny Kuznetsov has fallen off the course. I think the Caps management was kind of banking on one of the two of them to kind of return to form, and none of the two of them returned to form, unfortunately, for
One doesn't
their
play for the team, and the other one they're trying to
they're
no
trying to
longer have play
actively
for the
yeah, they're trying to
team.
actively make them not play for the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that tells you all you need to know. Last thing, caps wise, unless you got anything else to add. On behalf of Brian, shout out to Anthony Manfield on the great season he's having. Brian can comment on that
Yeah.
when he
Here's
comes
to
back, but
here's to
we
him
we talk
signing
about it in the chat often.
a 5-year deal at 5 mil per. Here,
Oh Jesus
that
Christ!
would
Yeah,
make Brian so happy.
so happy. Yes, I think even higher, man. Whatever Nylander signs for in Toronto, I'll give that to Manfield.
Give
That would be
that to
really good.
Manfield.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like it.
Okay. So that's caps. Dave, we got some Leafs time now.
Yeah.
I mentioned it off the top. I surprisingly didn't watch a lot of the Leafs this week. Of the four games, I missed a very good week. I watched the Islanders game in full. Um, I surrendered on the Columbus game, which looking back on is sacrilege by me because I tell every like Leafs fan friend that I have that I watch every minute of games because I always say like I have to know how they lose even if they're losing 5-0. I need to see how they respond to that and everything. And for whatever reason, that Columbus game, I was so demoralized by it that I I tapped out. And I hear my dad
Hey,
screaming downstairs after every goal. I'm like, okay, listen, they're gonna do their 1-2 goal comeback, their fake
Yeah.
comeback, whatever.
When did you
Next thing I know,
notice? Yeah, when did you notice, they were
I
doing it? Was it after the fourth cheer or the third cheer?
I tuned in again at 5-4. Is
Okay.
when I tuned in again. Yeah, yeah.
Dude,
But still, like I missed a lot.
it's not the first time a member of this podcast has been
Yeah.
demoralized by a bad Leaf performance against the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Oh my
Dude,
God. See that game, like that's a playoff game. I watch every playoff game in full. Like there's no
yeah.
question there. But
See, I kind of
yeah,
tuned out. I did. I was like, I was so fed up with that team, especially given the circumstances. This was in the
this
prime
is the
COVID bubble,
yeah,
right?
the
Uh,
OG COVID bubble.
the OG bubble, and I was just like, dude, I spent so long anticipating and waiting for the Leafs to come back, only for them to lay a couple of the biggest stinkers
Now,
I've ever seen in my life.
what was the score in that game again? Was it
Three
five
nothing.
four 3-0 they made
It
the
was three
comeback in, and
nothing.
it was
Yeah,
like 4 minutes left that we did it in with the Zach
legitimately under five
Hyman
minutes. Yeah,
tire. Yeah. And then Austin Matthews, who Jim Houston thought was Kasperi
Kasperi
Kapanen. Yes,
Kapanen.
it's that
Yeah.
game. Yeah, that I don't
Um,
forget.
yeah, it's crazy. It's not the first time that I fully like checked out of that game, and I was upset to even see them. I was like, why do you do this to us? And a
Yeah,
lot of
I
Leaf fans had the same reaction on Thursday, and I think it's maybe a little bit unjustified. The big context, I think the biggest theme throughout this week, regardless of the loss in New York, there was stories to come out of every single, like, there was four games
yes,
this week. I think every
yes,
single game there was legitimately big stories to come out of every
yep,
single one. The one theme that stayed consistent throughout the entire week and has kind of been bubbling under the surface for the past couple of weeks is this damn flu bug that's going around the team.
yeah, yeah,
It was really noticeable, especially in the back-to-back in New York. Uh, the Leafs are on their dad's trip, and you have a couple of guys out. Like I wouldn't even be able to. I know Matthew Nyes missed a couple of games. Lagesson before that probably missed a few games.
Sammy missed a bunch before the wall
Sammy
injury.
was patient zero on this team. It was like Sammy got
Yeah,
went down with illness, and we are like, okay, maybe not a warning sign, but maybe it should have been.
yeah. I
That
feel like
was
this
like
happens every year too, though, right? Like every
always around
damn
this
year.
time. It's
I
always
feel
around
like
this time
Willie
too.
always gets it too, but Willie decides to not like miss games. I
Yeah.
can't remember if this year it's the same scenario, but yeah. And then
Last night,
who missed last night? Yeah.
we had both, like, Austin Matthews, obviously, and underratedly TJ Brody as well. Like, they're probably their number one shutdown D man for the season.
And what did we
Uh,
learn, Dave? That they're bums and we don't need them because we won 7-0.
if you had asked me
Yeah.
before yesterday night's game, before, like, you had just found out Austin Matthews was unable to play, TJ Brody was unable to play, and
Yeah.
it's the return of Kyle Dubas in
Yes.
his old barn, I would have said lock on a 4-1, 5-1 loss for the
You
Leafs.
know how we always say, like, yo, former Leaf is going to score tonight?
Oh,
It would have been
dude,
like, yo, Kyle
former
Dubas is
GM
scoring. He's scoring from the
from the
press box.
press box, assisted by Jason Spezza too. Like,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And Nolan
uh,
Shari. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Nolachari, yeah, somehow.
Yeah, no, I,
Um,
I agree with that, and I even agree with that more in the sense of when I saw the lineup, or when I at least saw the first line of Nyes, Domi, Marner, Dave. You don't know how skeptical I was of that.
I
I
was
was like,
like,
"This is what the hell is this?
what's going
Domi
on
and
here?
Marner? They're just gonna play like hot potato in the corner. No
You know
one's
what they
gonna
played?
shoot the puck.
Dude, you know what they played? They played
A phenomenal
2015.
game, man.
They played 2014 London Knights
Oh,
hockey. I'll tell you
yeah,
that. They played
no,
Memorial
they
Cup
did.
hockey right there.
They did, man.
Man,
That's why, and we talk about how we can't step into NHL people's positions. Like that's why we're not coaches, man. Because I
yeah.
thought I was like, this is awful.
I accepted the loss.
Yeah,
Me and Christian both had events to go to last night. We
yeah,
kind of just were like, All right. I mean, like, listen, it's gonna
I mean, it's a
happen.
game, but yeah,
At least it won't be like, we kind of know what's gonna happen, and the complete opposite happened. So,
yeah.
I don't know if we really want to get into every single game. Like,
No,
we'll
we don't have
start
to get into the minutia. We can do the overarching things. I think that's the way to probably do it here.
first thing. Hats off, John Tavares, 1,000 points. That was
Storybook finish, except for the actual
except
finish.
for the actual finish. Yeah, exactly. And that happened multiple times this past week.
Yeah,
Game after,
yeah.
back to back, in New York, at Madison Square
Great
Garden,
game.
and
Great game.
dude, they tore, except for a quick minute in the second period. The third period, they absolutely dismantled the New York Rangers. Like the New
And
York
Igor
Rangers,
Shesterkin.
yeah,
Like,
they did.
yeah, like
They
he's
got to him early first.
yeah.
They sort of started letting the rags back into the game, and then they finished the job. They did something I haven't seen this Leafs team do that
Not
often.
very
Maybe,
often, no.
yeah, it's something that I like to see, and something that me and you talk about quite often. Like, just if you have your foot on the team's throat, keep it there. Don't take it off, right? And they did. They listened to that advice. Any other big stories coming out from that
From the
game?
Rangers game, not really. I don't think. And then the Columbus game, we've done a lot of the talking on. Obviously, 5 goal comeback down 5-0 to only to lose in
Only to
overtime.
lose, yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, I guess you take the OT point, but it's just such a Leaf way to lose, right?
Yeah.
It's like the I'm pretty sure we've brought this up before. I think it's the tungsten arm O'Doyle
The
tweets where it's like Shohei Ohtani.
Shogatani.
I can't believe I'm bringing this guy up again, but Shohei
Uh,
Ohtani and Mike Trout go 3-4 each with 2 bombs and 8 RBIs to set a new Angels record, and the
yeah.
Angels 15-12.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
It's
like
not.
Mike Trout hits four, gets 4 hits,
Yeah.
three home
Hits for the
runs.
cycle, throws a
Yeah.
perfect game as a
Shohei
position player.
Ohtani throws like a fucking nine
Yeah.
inning scoreless game, and the
Yeah.
Angels still lose.
Three
Like,
immaculate innings and the Angels lose.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
just like with the Leafs, Austin Matthews debuts, scores 4 goals, and the Leafs lose 5-4 in overtime. Leafs come back from down 5-0 in the third, only to lose in overtime. Right? It's
yeah,
just that's the
yeah.
Columbus bubble game. It's just that's always just funny. Leafs doing Leaf things. Yeah, and last night 7-0. That Nye's first goal, I saw that. That was gross. And yeah, I did want to ask you, do you maybe adjust the lineup whenever Austin comes back? Like, do you try and keep that line together? Is there any way to construct the lineup that yeah, keeps that line intact? I'm
That would
trying to do it
mean
in my head.
that would mean that it would. I wouldn't put John
What
Tavares
I
with that line. Like, it would
No, so this
like
is what I came up with was first line would be Bertuzzi, Matthews, Nylander.
Nylander. Okay.
Second line, Nyes, Domi, Marner. Third line, Robertson, Tavares, Yarncrow. And then fourth line, Gregor, Camphor. Like like the lines, whatever. Like it doesn't sound terrible. It's about the ice time. Is I don't know if you can spread the ice time around in a way that makes sense with this type of lineup.
Is it that unreasonable if John Tavares maybe gets less ice time for somebody
Right? So
who's,
that's
that
yeah,
John Tavares has a lot of hard miles on his body. Maybe you
yeah.
cut his. I Here's my thing on any time the Leafs change their lineup, dude, I'm fine with it. If it doesn't
In the
work,
regular
you don't.
season, yeah.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
the middle of December right now. If you want to try it for 2 games and it doesn't work,
Especially as yes, I think a lot of like Leaf fans will say that Keefe sometimes plays with the lines too much. I think most Leaf fans are okay with it on a game to game basis. Where we hate it is within the game, right? So it's like,
trying to
okay, if
adjust.
you
Yeah.
want to switch up the lineup, go ahead, but stick with it for 60 minutes at the very least. Like, remember when we had Riley and Sandine as a first pair? Like, he's like, you
Yeah.
know what, I'm gonna try it out. And I think by the first period, it was
By
gone.
period 2 has changed. Yeah, I was back to like
It's
Riley and
like,
Brody.
come on, give it some runway.
Yeah.
For keeps sometimes it's like unless it looks like last night, it's a no go.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The
like I
the only time he should be really changing up the lineups
yeah
mid game like that is when you are down by multiple goals and you need Willie,
yes,
Austin,
you got
and
to
Mitch to
stack the
step up,
lines.
and
Yeah,
you
and those
or
are
you
but those
put
aren't even like new line machinations. Like he's not tinkering with it to
yeah,
discover something
it's
new. It's like
not
this is
like
always the nuclear option. He's
yeah,
always
it's not
got that there.
like Noah Gregor's having a good game and then now
Yeah,
he's going up to the first line basically, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which yo, shout out to my boy Noah Gregor who did exactly that for a couple games.
Dude,
And I felt like
5
he looked
goals on the
okay.
year.
He's got 5 goals. He almost had six. I didn't have game audio when I was
He
watching, so I was convinced he scored
very
again. I'm like,
close to 6.
Noah freaking Gregor's got 6 goals. I had looked in the box score too. I'm like, he's got five. Oh my god, he's got six now, dude. He's got to be outscoring. He'd be outscoring Ovechkin.
Noah Gregor or Alex
Yeah,
Ovechkin, who do you want
yeah,
on your team? Real
man.
question.
So
Uh,
yeah, shout out to my boy Noah Gregor, man. That's like I think what's
oh,
very underrated, Dave, is do you know that like he's an RFA after this year? Like
ugh,
we can lock this guy in, man. I'm getting
for
overexcited about a fourth liner, but like these
yeah.
are my favorite types of
Just
players to
don't
get excited
overpay for
about.
that. Just don't
No, no,
overpay
no, no.
like by a
Yeah, don't
ridiculous amount.
overpay.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying the Noah Gregor experience. Yeah, Domi, that's got to be his best game. Bertuzzi, one of his best games,
One of
three
his better,
assists.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think Bertuzzi's been quiet recently, but he's also had some good
yeah.
games in the past. Like
His and also his underlying stats, all of his advanced stats have been very good. I
very
think for the
good.
past month, like he's leading the team in a bunch of stats, like
Dude,
possession and all that.
when Tyler Bertuzzi isn't on the score sheet, he is under the radar good. He does a lot of
Yeah,
things very good behind the plate and around, like, along the boards and that type of stuff.
lots of small plays,
He
small
is a
short
small things.
passes,
Yeah, he's a small things king like a John Tavares who
detail
doesn't always
oriented.
doesn't always appear on the score sheet. And it's always a great refresher when he is on the score sheet or when they are on
Yeah,
the score sheet. But they are also not guys to fumble the puck or turn over the puck or be stupid with the puck, basically. Even though that they do
yeah. We
have their
haven't seen that
moments.
too much from. We haven't seen that from either one
From
of them.
Bertuzzi,
Domi, we've seen from Bertuzzi a
yeah,
little bit more, but lately, no. Domi, I think we understand that's part of his game. Um, I had a Domi stat that I'm gonna dig out here that I wanted to read out because it kind of blew my mind. Without me finding it, it was something to the effect of there's only two players in the entire league that have more 5-on-5 assists than Domi. I don't know if you saw this as well. This was by okay, here it is. It's by Big Head Hockey. Shout out to Big Head
okay.
Hockey on Twitter. So yeah, um, 5-on-5 points this season. So never mind assists. 5-on-5 points. Oh wait, no, this is a different one. But this is still a good stat. 5-on-5 points this season. Leon Draisaitl, 15. Max Domi, 15.
Wow.
That right there is a very interesting one. But yeah, the other
Wow.
one was every forward in the NHL with more 5-on-5 assists than Max Domi. Tim Stützle, Nathan McKinnon. That is it. That is it. So it's
Wow.
interesting. Like I
Top
still
like top like half percentile in the league,
Yeah,
basically, right?
yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I still think there's another level to Domi scoring wise. But like as a playmaker, it's pretty easy to tell that he's the sauce boss. Like he's throwing those saucer passes willy-nilly every single game. And when they're hitting targets, it looks really nice.
When they
So
don't,
hopefully
yeah,
it looks
if it doesn't come off, yeah, it's
you're
not a
like,
great
what the
look. Don't
hell,
get me
man?
wrong, but
Yeah.
I have to
When he's
say
on, he's on.
his like shooting percentage basically for sauce passes, I would say is probably like at about a 65 to 70%. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty good hit rate, basically.
Yeah.
Um, before we go any further, let's take just a quick 5 minutes and then we'll kind of wrap up this conversation. All right, so we are back from our quick break. When we last left off, dude, the Leafs absolutely waxed the Pittsburgh Penguins last night. Honestly, dude, why did they have to have a game like that on a day where me and you just really weren't
Uh
able to watch the full? Like that's a game I would have loved to have sit
yeah.
down and just taking in the full 60. I got
Yes,
like 30 minutes in of the game. Like
I
it's
I
good
agree.
enough, but man,
And it's one of those ones where you just wanna sit back and
bask
be like,
in it.
wow, this is great. Yeah, because that was the game. That's
Exact.
the game of the year so far,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
That's the game of the season. That's the best game. This entire week has honestly probably been the week of the season for the Leafs. Um, Maybe the Sweden week is also in there, but just from a on ice
And
performance with
dude,
no other context.
they lost twice technically,
Yeah, but
right?
okay. So you know what? I'm stretching the week to the Nashville 4-0 game.
Okay.
So from
So
from
3 and
Saturday
2.
to Saturday, right? So that
Yeah.
Nashville game, 4-0, just nice clean win, beautiful stuff on home ice. Islanders game, Tavares gets his 2 points. We make the
Tying it up
small
late.
comeback, yeah, and we get a point. Lose overtime, okay. Same thing with Columbus, down 5-0. What the hell, shambolic. You
We
get your
should
overtime loss point.
that
Yeah,
game out of like every game I've
gravy.
seen, that game is like okay, regardless of the loss, that game
Yeah,
should have been a game where you don't even like not even don't get a point out of this game. You literally walk
yeah,
out of the arena feeling down about yourself if you're on the Toronto
yeah,
Maple Leafs. Like, wow, you're reconsidering some choices that you had in like in the past, basically, right?
yeah.
Like, should I
Yes.
actually be here right now, basically?
Where can I
Uh,
find a time machine? Yeah, like that. You're
exactly.
you're looking to do that. I keep always skipping over the Rangers game when I'm going into
That
the week, but
Rangers
that
game
game was
was,
huge.
yeah, that was a
Seven
very
three
underrated great win. And then last
against a
night,
good team. Like that was like you're
yeah,
measuring up against one of the
that's
favorites right now in the league.
the best, probably the best team that they played all
Yeah.
week too, right?
And you brought
Like,
up a point during the week. I remember when that happened. You don't want to jinx it during the game, but you're like, "Yo, boys, Keith kind of owns
dude,
Lavio."
I saw
Yeah,
2 games in person last year, and both of
yeah.
them were against the Caps with Peter Laviolette behind the bench, and both
And we
games
beat him both times.
were both wins. One of them, the second game, they like the Caps had legitimately no response. They looked a
They
lot
folded like a
like
chair.
they did. They folded like a cheap suit. They looked a lot
Yeah,
like the New York Rangers did in the third
yeah.
period. And I was like, honestly,
It's not impressed
in
by the Rangers in that
recent
game, man.
recent memory, I was like, I think Lavio's got maybe one win over Keith in like the past like 2 years or 3 years. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
crazy.
So yeah, I had two questions for you
Go
relating
right
to
ahead.
last night. I'm sure you like heard the Dubas chants, or at least saw clips of Dubas. Yeah, like what'd you think about just the whole Dubas angle on the game last night? Um,
Here, dude,
yeah,
I I will relay like I will parlay that into
yeah,
another thing that happened this past
okay.
week. On Monday, we're in Long Island, and every single time John Tavares touches the puck, he gets mercilessly booed. 20, what was it, 2018 that he signed with us? So the
Yeah.
2018-19 season, I could remember it distinctively. It's a game at the Nassau, that would have been at the Nassau Veterans Memorial shithole barn. Uh,
Coliseum Arena,
not even an
shit barn.
arena. That is a barn to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
And you know,
No, that Dave, that is one of those games where like that's one of the most memorable games in this era.
I've never
Um,
been so heated. Like I was
yeah.
genuinely heated. I was like,
They were
how
throwing
do you,
snakes on the ice,
dude,
man. Rubber
how do you,
snakes.
it's not, it wasn't even about the fans. It was how the team stood up for it.
Yes.
They
Oh my
literally,
God.
dude, I've never seen a team physically recoil so, like in their lives, and that's what got me. So I could not care less about any of the fans in that arena that
Yeah.
night because I have to say they deserve to boo him because John Tavares did kind of lead them on a little bit, and I
Yeah.
completely
No.
understand their frustration. And
Yeah.
we know this just as good as anybody in recent memory of
Uh,
having your like a star
uh,
player in your grasp and losing him, granted we didn't have the guy that we're talking
7 years
about.
of
I'm not even
him. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's yeah.
I'm not talking about, I'm not even gonna mention his name. He doesn't even deserve to be brought up anymore. Um but I got it from the Islanders fans. Did I expect that to translate to now it's year 5 of this, or is it year 6? Whatever. It's been
Year 6.
It's been quite a long time, and they have not stopped. I saw a lot of it, and it still kind of gets me like hot under the collar when I hear my
It's not the same
captain.
level of booze though. Like it's not as loud.
It's definitely quieter. That first
Yeah,
game, dude,
but
was like genuinely like
it was deafening. It was insane,
you know how bad it
insane.
was? It was so bad that I could remember that was a TSN broadcast that game. Ray Ferraro and Mike Johnston weren't able to speak because of how loud it was every time John Tavares touched the puck. They had to just let the
Yeah,
crowd do their thing as John Tavares touched the puck, and they weren't able to talk basically, right? Like they would have to like cut out and cut back in.
yeah. We should also mention part of that saga was the game after when he got the ovation. Like that's part of the saga there. Okay, but okay, how does this relate to Dubas? Sorry, we
So
got off
this
track, but
relates
yeah,
this relates to Dubas because, you know, Kyle Dubas, for better or worse, was a polarizing figure in the Toronto
absolutely,
sports
absolutely. From
day
I'd say
one.
even before he, yeah, like even before he was GM, like day one, as in when he got hired, like everyone's like, "Who's this snarky looking
Yeah,
nerd that Brendan Shanahan just brought in?"
the
Yeah,
first nickname everybody had for him was Boy Wonder, right?
the
Kind of,
Wonder Boy is here
yeah,
with his glasses, and yeah, yeah, yeah.
kind of diminishing like everything that Kyle Dubas has done and just kind of like looking down on him.
A lot of overlap with the Nylander stuff. I would say, right, like very similar, probably people who are
Yeah.
on one side or the other. Yeah,
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 100%.
yeah,
I think Kyle Dubas was probably, in terms of recent memory, like of most polarizing figures in the Leafs organization or like Leafs history, is
yeah.
probably like, yeah,
To
I
him, number
think,
one, and Nylander too, and
and
that like
Nylander,
Nylander's now erased that.
the only reason why Nylander's erased that is because he's been genuinely fantastic since. Let's not forget, Kyle Dubas, I think, was starting to find his feet. He is the first,
Yeah,
I think he's the only living general manager right now to have taken the Leafs past the first round, right?
it's crazy. It's crazy,
Crazy to
man.
think about, but
Probably I don't know. Cliff Fletcher didn't.
oh,
Wow.
Cliff Fletcher is
Yeah,
still alive, actually. Yeah, you're right. It's
yeah,
only it's
yeah.
only
But still,
the
like
it's only the
it's a
coaches that
very
are it's only the coaches that are unfortunately not alive to see.
it's a very short list still,
It
probably.
is a very
Right?
it probably
Yeah,
only him,
they're
honestly.
very exclusive club.
Um,
Um, yeah,
but you know what? And this is not something that we could really say about the Leafs, but the Leafs finally got one over on
a
their old
former.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I Yeah, I would agree. I think my thing, like I liked the Dubas chance last night because I think my only beef with Kyle, like I love them as a GM. Was definitely pissed as hell when we didn't retain him. My only beef with him was the way he left, where it was a bit of a power struggle, and I think you can point a lot of it still at Shanahan, but a power struggle, really, there's blame to go on both sides. And
Yep.
so the way that went down definitely left a sour taste in my mouth.
Mhm.
And I probably would have joined in on some Dubas chants last night, even though I would say I'm a Dubas. Um,
I'm a
I'm
Dubas
somewhat,
truther.
yeah,
I
yeah.
am.
I like,
Dude, I
I
really liked him.
I did too. Like I did too. And I think when the reins were let loose a bit on him, at least it seemed like it last year, he did some of his best work.
He
Right.
did.
But
I
now
agree.
was every move he made phenomenal? No.
No.
The Mrazek deal.
Does
No,
anybody have a perfect
exactly.
track record?
Nobody,
Nobody
nobody.
does.
Not even the best. Not even who you consider the best GM. Okay, not Steve Eiserman, not Julian Breezeball, Koff, Tanner Giroux. Like you go to everyone. Joe
The
Sakic
the
maybe comes the
longest
closest.
the longest tenured G or like not tenured, but like the Lou Lamoriello has been around the
Uh,
league
he
for
made
over
some
30
mistakes
years.
with us.
Dude,
Like I said,
guys probably the leader right now in terms of active GMs with cup
yeah,
wins. He probably has the most as a general manager. Because I think Eisman definitely has him beat. Um, has was is his track record at 100%. I know some Leaf fans would like to
nobody's a
make you
squeaky clean.
some Leaf
Yeah,
fans would like to make you believe that it was in Toronto, but I can tell you it wasn't.
yeah,
Dude, another thing like with Dubas, like I agree 100%. Like I've never felt Kyle Dubas to
That's the most
me,
attached you've been to like a front office
to
person, right?
100%.
Yeah, same,
I
same.
I will never get the memory out of my head of him just berating a Tampa Bay Lightning fan in the playoffs, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, if I was a
yeah,
GM, I don't know how I'd be able to restrain myself
yeah.
if I was put in his position. Like you have the whole Leaf fan base, like win or lose, basically coming at your head every single night. Everybody thinks that
Yeah.
they could do your job. You have so
Everyone was
much.
a Dubas truther after that night, eh?
Oh,
I'm like, even if you hated Kyle Dubas, you loved
yeah,
Kyle Dubas that
you
night.
did
Yeah,
because that was his
his
how
passion, just
since
the passion that
2014.
unites us all, Dave.
That was his
Yes, the
that was
passion.
everything let loose basically that game,
Yeah,
and then eventually when they got the series win, the
yeah,
just sheer jubilation from Kyle Dubas.
yeah.
I have to say, like, he is gonna go
He
down.
knows how
Like,
to sell.
he really does. Like, I loved him, don't get me wrong,
No, me too. Me too.
but it's just so funny to like for it to finally come full circle, and the way that they just up like dominated
Yeah,
the Pens yesterday. It was just like, oh, what a breath of fresh air, considering that I think, I had it pegged in. I was like, okay, we're probably gonna lose. The story for the next like week is gonna be how this guy got the one up on us. Maybe we should have kept Kyle Dubas, or maybe we should have, got rid of whatever, like whatever the
yeah,
stories would have been some crazy stories, but at least we know those stories don't have to come to light till the
yeah.
next time that these two teams play each other.
Okay. Okay. I did have one other question, and
Go.
while we did that talk there, I did come up with another one. I'm not even gonna. We won't even have to talk about it really because I feel like I've answered it myself. I asked one of my friends last night. I said, "Is this the type of game that gets Mike Sullivan fired?" I think the answer
Oh,
is probably no, just because Dubas did like a press conference, I think a week ago, saying Mike Sullivan's the guy.
he
So
has to. If you already have to defend your coach, Craig Berube,
he's on the hot seat, but like I
dude,
don't.
Craig Berube was
Yeah,
being defended by Doug Armstrong, I would honestly say a month ago,
yeah.
right?
Yes, no, that's fair. That's fair. But is Kyle that type of guy? Like he's this is Mr. We Can and We Will. I don't know if
You're
he
right.
changes his mind that
You're
fast,
right.
right?
I
So
think we saw it though with the Mike Babcock situation, and I think he has a lot more power in Pittsburgh now for him to kind of
yes,
say,
I do think he likes this Mike better than the last Mike, though.
I think he does
I think,
too.
and I think he's justified to think that way.
Listen,
Yeah,
this current Mike has a relatively recent like track
yes,
record of success, even
I'd
more
say he's
recent
an
than the
upper
last Mike.
echelon coach, right? Like he's,
Yeah,
I think he's once again in that same type of mold that we talked about with Berube and Evison. Probably it leans a little bit more like if we wanted to, it's a stupid way to put it, but like left leaning or right leaning in terms of like progressive
ideals.
and conservative. Yeah, like Mike is probably closer to the middle than Berube and Evison, but he's still on the right side,
He's on the
right?
right, yeah,
So
the right middle.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. So this is just something I thought about. I don't know. We'll see if anything comes of it, but that's a thought I had last night. Other one, real quick. What do you think about the goal song? Like, I feel like no one's talked about it since the whole thing. Like, have you gotten used to it? Do
Okay,
you like it? Are you like apathetic?
what was it
Tell
last
me.
night? I don't even know what it was.
Last night was
Okay, so it was
that's
that.
my favorite one.
I
That's and
I
that's the standard
I
one.
I do like that. I won't lie,
Yeah.
but I have to say on Thursday there was a literally perfect goal to
Yes,
goal
you
song
talked about this.
ratio.
Yeah.
Dude, Jake McCabe with a big shit bomb from the point. It was like a 90-mile rip bar
Yeah.
down, and then in the background all you hear is Panama,
Yeah.
Panama, from Van
It's
Halen.
very
Dude, I was like that if that doesn't scream Jake McCabe to you right now, just a
really
a,
throwback.
a dirty clapper from the point, like taking it right back to like 1986, basically.
Yeah.
Shout out. Yeah, I have to say I'm growing to like the songs. I
I do.
definitely,
I feel like the one thing I miss with the Hall and Oates song, and maybe it's just because this is still fresh, is I feel like you would just hear the song in any other type of capacity, and it would immediately make you think Leafs.
yeah.
And we haven't made that memory yet with this song. It's gonna take more moments and stuff, and it's less singable. Like
Listen, you get one good playoff
yes,
run,
any song could
top of the
be,
charts.
yeah, literally, absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, and then what did you want to bring up before we head out here? One more
dude.
actual topic here.
Last thing, I think it's honestly kind of like we'd be kind of remiss to not even
Yeah, no,
talk about
100%.
it until right now. But
100%.
dude, Martin Jones, big shutout, and it wasn't one of those like Sammy had a 18 save shutout last Saturday. The
Totally different.
yesterday night, dude, Martin Jones had to work for his shutout. It was like a 38 save shutout, like
Yeah. Especially
crazy.
when it's like when you're down that bad, the teams almost say we need to spite the other team. We need to get one. Like we gotta ruin the shutout. Like there's
Yeah,
that type of effort that a team puts
100%.
in.
It
Yeah.
looked like they clearly were trying for that,
Yeah.
especially in the third period. Like the shots were definitely leaning towards Pittsburgh's favor. But yeah, dude, big shout out to Martin Jones. And this kind of leaves us the question, with Joe Wall on the shelf for till the new year, probably I would say like mid-January is when we could
Yeah.
probably start to see rumblings of him returning. And with the type of performance that Ilya Samsonov had on Thursday, and the
Yeah.
types of performances that Martin Jones was in for the
Rangers game.
Rangers win, and the Penguins win, and also
Yeah. Had
uh
the back half of the third period against Ottawa, where
yes.
he made like 9 saves. Yeah. But look good.
Um And then for Sammy, he's on the end of a couple, he had the one shutout to begin the week, I
Yeah.
guess we could say like last Saturday, and then overtime loss to the Isles. And then, going down five
I didn't love
nothing.
him. I didn't love him in that Islanders game either. So, now mind
I
you,
I
the Leafs didn't play great defense either, but like he could have had some.
and that's
Yeah.
the same story going into the Columbus game as well. I
Yes.
was in the opinion of give Sammy a run of games here to try to get his
Yeah.
mojo back, but if we get a couple more games, I don't know if I have to say, I'd strongly believe against not seeing a repeat Columbus game, but I could see something maybe closer to the Islanders game where maybe he lets in one or two softies, maybe the team's not playing well. But last year, those softies, he wasn't letting
He
in
was also
basically,
like,
right?
I think his record was like insanely good, coming off losses. Like it was something absurd. Like I think he might have only had like once or twice instances of back to back losses. He was the bounce back king. He's not been that this year.
Hmm.
I think his save percentage is like in the 870s. That's
Not good.
not sustainable in any way. That's not NHL level. I've still been on the train of listen, you got to stick with this guy. This is the guy who won you a series last year. He outdueled Vasilevsky. He's the only Leaf goaltender you can say that about. Um, but at the same time, it's like okay, we're seeing a lot of the Campbell parallels, and we see how that's worked out for the Oilers, right? So maybe you do have to cut bait in a sense, but like, I don't think this is a guy you can trade or anything. Like, what kind of value is he gonna have? He makes 3.5. You're sticking with him, but for better or worse, I think for this year, at least until the playoffs, because at playoff time, it's you don't care about anyone's feelings in that sense. It's listen, you haven't been good enough. Martin Jones is the backup, but I think as far as the regular season goes, there's still a lot of the story to be written. He might not be able to totally salvage the season, but you got to try. Still have to
Hmm.
try. So I still am kind of in the same position that I was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. You got to play him in games. You maybe it's not. Maybe you go to a winner takes the net kind of model while Wall's out right now. So Murray
Hmm.
Jones got to win, throw him back in until he doesn't win. Might have to go that way, but you can't. I don't think you can just kind of sit him for the foreseeable future, right? But it's definitely awesome to see Marty Jones play how he's been playing. He was also I thought he was also really good in the preseason. So interesting that he hasn't been good, I don't think, for the Marlies. But there's for some reason, especially goalies are like that, where they have crappy AHL stats, and for whatever reason, it works on the big club.
Yeah.
Hopefully, not the case with Hildeby because he's got
I
great stats. So hopefully, he keeps those stats
I think
whenever he shows up here.
the only
But yeah,
opposite, yeah, the only opposite with that was like Garrett Sparks. Like
that was the comparison I
fantastic,
thought of too. Yeah,
literal Calder
I
Cup
think he was
winner.
back to back like goalie of the year in the A.
Yeah, and then he came up and looked like a like
A
a wet
sieve and a
dog.
half. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, that's yeah, that was not good times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I I'm not in a panic mode when it comes to the goalies.
I don't think I would be if both of them were routinely shitting the bed, I'd be like, okay, we might be
This is a
getting close.
problem.
Yeah, we might be getting close to trade something for someone,
Panic time.
basically mode.
See, that's
But
the thing is like I don't know if I'm of the opinion that it's like just get a body in because we've done the just get a body in thing a couple times. Michael Hutchinson,
oof,
um, and David Riddick, and it
oof.
was just like those were kind of pointless. So who are you going to be able to bring in that costs you almost nothing that is going to be better than Samsonov? I don't really know if that guy exists. And if he does exist, there's teams that are going to be willing to pay more for them, like the Edmonton Oilers, right? So
With like
I
teams
don't
that
really see a world where getting a goalie makes sense. There's a world where if for whatever reason someone is willing to take Samsonov and his $3.5 million cap hit in a cap dump to make another deal work, okay, I can hear that out, but I'm not convinced there's that type of interest.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Overall, pretty
Yeah,
damn good week as a Leaf fan. Pretty damn good week.
yeah, yeah. Can't
Yeah,
honestly, you really can't complain. Um, dude, think we kind of exhausted all of our
yeah,
topics today. I guess we'll start
yeah,
wrapping it up. Shout out to Fubo, shout out to Razor, shout out to Fubo for Hockey Night in Canada, which you could have caught last night on CBC. You could catch it next week against I'm not even too like I honestly have no idea who they'd be
yeah.
playing. I take them
It's the
game by
holidays.
game.
It's a blur.
Yeah, I take it game by game right now. But head to Fubo if you want to watch Hockey Night in Canada. Of course, shout out to Razor. Shout out to the NHLshop.com where you can pick up your is so obscure.
I would love a Noah Gregor jersey, man.
Dude,
Get
Noah
somebody
Gregor.
Noah Gregor. Noah McGregor jersey, okay?
Noah
Put McGregor.
McGregor.
That's what we should call him after his fights.
I
Yeah,
like it. I
yeah.
like a nice
How about a Bobby McMahon jersey after he scored his first NHL goal?
dude.
That's a
I
good
completely
shout out.
forgot about
Shout out
that.
to
Yeah,
Bobby
good for
McMahon.
him. Should have been his second career goal, but we don't
Yes,
have to bring that
yes.
up. It's okay. Good for
Yeah.
Bobby to actually finally get one on the board.
Attaboy, Bobby.
He's somebody who deserves it. So we like
Yes.
that. Bobby McMahon, go get your Bobby McMahon jerseys.
Happy holidays to anybody watching as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we probably will take a little bit of time off, maybe 1 week. We'll
TBD
see.
when we're in, but rest assured we'll be in at some point soon.
100%.